Thank you very much for attending this session on water. We are here today to talk about the challenges of water, and I think that all of you are very well aware of the problems associated to water in our world.
Hello.
Complicated problems. Flooding, for instance, which is terrorizing large regions in our planet. Complex problems like water scarcity, which is threatening already nowadays several areas in the world, and the global water demand is still increasing. And this is not only the case in some very faraway countries or arid regions. Also here in Flanders, hard to believe, but also here in Flanders we have to deal with water scarcity. Almost unimaginable if you look at a day like this when it is raining all day. But Flanders is actually categorized as a region with extremely high water stress. It's 23rd on the list of countries with extreme water scarcity. So we are really in an urgent need for solutions. And whereas water is at the center of all these problems, water is also often a part of the solution. Because if we manage to understand and to embrace the complexity of our water system, if we organize ourselves to it, then water can be the social connecting factor to face many of these challenges. And that's actually one of the reasons why I started a career in a water company, to get an impact on this water system. And I was thinking about that when I was on holiday several weeks ago. I was doing a kayak tour in a mangrove. You know, mangroves, they are fantastic. They provide protection against flooding. They can reduce erosion. They can remove pollutants such as nitrogen and phosphorus. And while I was paddling there through these shallow waters and surrounded by the lush green forestry, I was thinking that how many of the solutions that we are creating in my company to deal with water are actually inspired by nature. And that's the message that I wanted to share with you today, the importance of nature-based solutions in water management. And let me show you that by means of the example of Flanders. Flanders is a relatively small area with a big population, we used to take water for granted here, so where there used to be rivers and brooks flowing somewhere around here, we have now literally contained this water system. We have transformed it into a piping system that is designed to evacuate the water as soon as possible out of our streets and out of our city. And this is really the basis of our problem, this contained water system. It's also part of the solution. We need to create storage for water there. We need to allow it to infiltrate. Not only in areas like this, natural areas, but also and especially in our cities and in the industrial areas. And that's where the nature-based solutions come to the rescue. Nature-based solutions provide the space for water, especially in urbanized areas, and they also provide additional benefits, such as, for instance, the stimulation of biodiversity or recreational benefits. And with a smart design, you can also reuse part of that water. That's also what I like so much about my job, because there I can combine my technical background, because I'm a civil engineer by education, with the inspiration that you can find in nature. Now let me show you some examples of the impact that these nature-based solutions can have. It was calculated by the University of Leuven that we need to retain 10 to 20% more stormwater than we do nowadays. So instead of evacuating it through the sewer systems directly to the sea, we need to try to store it, retain it, allow it to infiltrate. And 10 to 20%, that's quite a lot. That's 1,000 billions of liters of water. It's 400,000 Olympic swimming pools, so a pretty big challenge. But the good news is that both you and I can contribute to that, me and my company, but also you and I as an individual. We can already take care of several percentages to reach this 10-20% that is needed by working with nature. And I will show you some examples, some of my favorite realizations that illustrate you that nature and urbanization can go hand in hand. What you see here are some pictures of infiltration fields. Infiltration fields are designed to temporarily store the runoff from paved surfaces like roofs and cycle paths and roads, and allow it to infiltrate. It's a slightly lowered area, unpaved, with grass and plants covering it, because the roots of the plants make sure that the soil stays permeable. That's good for infiltration. And it can also purify the water to some extent before it infiltrates. The plants also provide shelter for animals and insects and some food for them, so in this way they also stimulate biodiversity. And of course, not to forget the recreational value that these kind of solutions can have. Just imagine that you have a playground like this in front of your house. Your kids will just love that. Here are some more examples of some more urbanized areas. There you can combine the more technical systems like water-passing pavements and porous infiltration pipes together with rain gardens and tree bunkers to make a system that can collect, let's say, 90% of the stormwater, keep it in place instead of bringing it to the sewer system. We also install common rainwater wells connected to the system, connected to a tap that the residents can then use to water their facade gardens, for instance, which is also a way of increasing the interaction between the neighbors. They are now literally sharing a garden, whereas some of them did not even have a garden before. What can you do yourself if you want to store some more stormwater in your garden? Try to keep it as much as possible in your garden. You can work with different levels to create some storage there, or you could dig a wadi in the backyard of your house to infiltrate the water from your roof. Now, these are just some of the examples to inspire you about what you and I can do. Relatively simple solutions, but more is needed, of course. And Inge will tell you all about what is needed for the next step to make the transformation towards a water-resilient society. Inge. Thank you.
Thank you very much for these interesting presentations. Before you leave the stage, I want to ask both of you a question. First, Marjolein, if somebody would want to start a career in water, what would you recommend doing them?
Okay, I would say follow your heart and go and have a talk with water companies that you think are appealing. I think that nowadays motivation and talent are just as important, or maybe even more important, than a university degree, so there are plenty of opportunities. Lots of companies also offer internships, which is a great way to explore each other a little bit. So I'd say go out to the fair and have a talk to Aquafin or any other water company.